Childhood obesity rates have skyrocketed among all age groups in the United States. According to the National Obesity Childhood Coalition, childhood obesity has increased more than fourfold among those ages 6 to 11. More than 23 million children and teenagers in the United States ages 2 to 19 are obese or overweight, a statistic that public health and medical experts consider a true epidemic. This epidemic puts nearly 1/3 of America's children at an early risk for type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, and even stroke, conditions usually associated with adulthood. Unfortunately, even greater disparities exist among young Hispanics and children of color. Let's talk to one of our local experts on what we can do to help our children prevent this condition. We're here at North Point Pediatrics in Warren, Michigan with Dr. Laura Clark, who will be talking to us a little bit more about childhood obesity. Dr. Clark, welcome to our show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Landisa.
Absolutely. Could you please just give us a rough definition of what childhood obesity is, what are some of its main factors, and how is it affecting our children?
Oh, certainly. Childhood obesity, the definition of that is this: a child's body mass index is over at the 85th percentile. And the body mass index is determined by looking at the height and weight of the child. Mm-hmm. And then there's a calculation which any parent can find if you go online. There's lots of body mass calculators online to look at. And any body mass index that's over 85% is considered, over 85% is considered overweight, over 95% is considered obesity. And there's a lot of different factors that play into children becoming obese. I think a lot of it has to do with the lifestyle that we lead today. Unfortunately, there's a lot of fast food out there that kids eat, and many times kids have a sedentary lifestyle that plays into that.
Absolutely. And do you know what the prevalence of this condition is nationwide and maybe even in Warren?
Nationwide, the last figures show that it's about 17%, and I would say Warren is easily 17%, if not 20%. We do unfortunately see a lot of obese children, overweight and obese children in our practice.
Dr. Clark, what are some of the consequences of early onset childhood obesity?
It really can affect the entire body system. You can see kids who are overweight can have increased risk of type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes used to be considered an adult onset disease, but unfortunately now we're seeing this in children. It can affect the liver. It can cause fatty infiltration of the liver. It affects bones and joints. As you can imagine, if you're heavy, it's hard to move. Your muscles hurt, your joints can hurt. It can also affect development in puberty. Girls who are overweight produce more estrogen, can cause them to develop puberty early. So really from head to toe can have effects. And also it's much harder if you start off overweight as a child with bad habits. That can just lead you into adulthood obesity and all the problems on the heart and everything.
Absolutely. What are some concrete or maybe simple steps that parents can take to prevent this from happening to them?
Well, I think one thing is making sure that you're going to regular checkups so that you can continue to track your child's height and weight and make sure that they're appropriate. I think sometimes a parent's view gets a little skewed. You start to think that your child is just normal, and not really realizing that it's just not baby fat, but that the child is overweight or obese. So regular checkups, I think, are important. The other thing I think is important is to stay active. Get out there and play. And I'm not saying you have to be on a sports team, but it's important to be outside and play and move or be active in the house. We really recommend an hour of physical activity each day. And that can either be all at once or kind of broken up throughout the day. I think really watching what a child eats and offering healthy foods is important, and watch the portion size. I find as Americans we tend to overeat. It's really easy to eat more than what we should, and so really watching what the portion sizes are and offering that. Sweetened beverages, I think, have really played into this too. You often see the kids are sipping juice all day. Pop is a huge one. Even sports drinks. The kids really don't need all those sports drinks, and they have a ton of sugar in them. So we really recommend that the kids are drinking water or low-fat milk instead.
Absolutely. And Dr. Clark, you mentioned this a little bit, but what about parents that already have children that are obese? What are some immediate things that they can do?
Well, I think
right away.
Right away, I think you got to stop and take a look at that diet. And it's really easy. for kids to overeat and overdrink what they need. So I think you got to stop and take a look at the diet. And sometimes that even means, maybe consulting with a nutritionist or talking to your pediatrician. And there's also a lot of online sources about that. Healthychildren.org or the American Academy of Pediatrics, AAP.org, has great information for families about healthy diet and exercise.